Hello, friends. My name is Marcus Richardson, and I think that Nathan and I lied to you. I think that last episode we said that this episode would be the first episode of the next exhibit. However, Nathan and I weren't able to figure out our schedules and do that in time, for which I am greatly ashamed. So, to help fill the void, we thought that we'd post an excerpt from the novella that we wrote last year, Riddlesburg. For those of you who haven't heard of it, Riddlesburg is an ebook that Nathan and I wrote last year, which is loosely connected to this podcast, and it's full of riddles and mysteries to solve. It's kind of an homage to Professor Layton puzzle games and also mystery novels. And it's short and sweet and pretty campy, and we had a blast writing it, so we thought that we'd share a little bit of it with you here. Riddlesburg by Nathan Hicken and Marcus Richardson. Aurelius scrambled off the departing train just in time to realize that his briefcase was still on board. After a few frantic seconds of vain signaling to the conductor, Aurelius watched helplessly as the Quilton Express disappeared into the evening horizon. Not again. Well, at least he had made it to Riddlesburg. Aurelius scanned the platform for anyone who looked official. The station was remarkably empty, with the exception of an older gentleman closing up a ticket booth for the day. Aurelius approached the man. "Headed somewhere?" The clerk eyed him from behind his register. "Here, actually, but it looks like my luggage will be taking a little trip to Quilton. Is there any way I can—"
So you'll be staying here for a few days.
No, I have just a quick errand here. I was wondering if you could telegram the next station over and have them transfer my luggage to a train headed back here?" The clerk smirked in a way that made Aurelius feel like the punchline to a joke he hadn't heard.
"Son, that was the last train in or out of Riddlesburg for the weekend. You'll either need to find a cabbie, hoof it over to Quilton, or prepare yourself for a lovely weekend stay in Riddlesburg and get your bags back on Monday."
"I'm stuck here?"
"Yes, sir."
The clerk returned to organizing ledgers as if Aurelius was no longer there, muttering,
"The boy bought a one-way ticket without checking the schedule for a way back."
Aurelius was too tired to be upset. He slumped up against a column, clutching the letter that had led him here.
"Is that a little mystery you got there?"
Apparently the clerk was still aware of his presence. Aurelius stood up straight. "How did you know?"
"Just a guess. Riddlesburg seems to attract a lot of folks with questions. Don't often see people leave with answers, though. Anyways, what is it?"
"It's—" Aurelius debated how much he should open up to this rather rude gentleman. "It's just a weird letter. No return address, but it was postmarked here in Riddlesburg. Thing is, I don't know anyone from Riddlesburg. I've never even heard of this place."
"Well, who knows? Ask around. The folks that live here are quite the characters. I'd wager that if you meet a few, maybe even solve their riddles, you'll solve your own mystery."
"Riddles? Really?"
"Welcome to Riddlesburg, son."
And with that, the clerk shut the door of the booth, leaving Aurelius alone in the station with nothing but his mysterious letter. The Tinkerer. After 5 minutes of hoping that the clerk would reappear, Aurelius gave up and trudged out of the station, where the flickering lamplight gave him his first taste of Riddlesburg. Cobblestone streets weaved in between buildings with blackened chimneys and closed curtains. The houses twisted and turned as if stacked like a toddler's block set. In the distance, he could see a dark spire highlighted against the mauve sky. As Aurelius stood on the cobblestones, the sound of clinking metal pulled his attention to an alley where an old woman with a stained apron was dragging a box of strange metal contraptions. A gear pinged onto the ground, and she stopped to reattach it to a contraption reminiscent of a weasel. "Excuse me," Aurelius hollered at the tinkerer, waving the letter. She looked up from her contraption. "Well, you're certainly new in town." If 2 words was all it took to stand out in this town, then it was likely that Riddlesburg didn't get a lot of visitors. "Yes, I'm looking for—" What was he looking for?
"You've got a letter there,"
noted the tinkerer, gesturing with her wrench. Aurelius nodded.
"Then I suspect that you'll need the postman."
The postman? Maybe they would know who wrote the letter. Yes, could you tell me how to get there?"
"I could, but I have this riddle that's been scratching at me. Perhaps you could help me."
A riddle? But
don't worry, it's a quick one.
Riddle 1. Kept on a tower, a pocket, or wrist. When their hands freeze, just give them a twist. The postman. Aurelius followed the strange woman's directions to a small building tucked behind a church. Riddlesburg Post Office. Its spotless sign contrasted with the crumbling brick exterior. Inside, the burly postman was more than happy to help. Yes, this letter most certainly was postmarked here in town. He peered at the letter through an eyepiece that seemed minuscule in his large hands. So you can tell me who sent it? The postman shifted his weight as the floorboards groaned in protest. Now that I can't do. Mailer confidentiality and all, you know. Mailer confidentiality? Is that a thing? Absolutely. The postman crossed his heart and handed the letter back to Aurelius. So that's it? Aurelius frowned. Hey now, don't look so glum. I know someone that might be able to take a look at that letter. But first, while you're here, you see, my daughter's birthday is coming up, and I'd really like to have this riddle solved for her. Riddle 2. Twisted by clowns, but full of hot air. Scarlet if French, but rubber ensnared. The Poet. This trip was turning into a wild goose chase. Aurelius wasn't wild about geese or chases, but still, he trekked across town to the postman's friend. After she invited him inside, Aurelius realized that she was a poet. Her parlor room was littered about with her creative works, most of which were scrawled on single sheets of paper. She fit right in with her messy hair and ink-stained fingers. When Aurelius offered her his mysterious letter, she eagerly accepted it and examined it under the light of her oil lamp. She noted, "You've come a long way just to figure out who wrote this. Do you think it might be from someone you know?" Aurelius hesitated. No, I don't think so. I happen to be an investigative journalist by trade, so I'm used to following leads till the trail goes cold. The poet sniffed the letter and frowned. Handing it back to Aurelius, she said, "Well, young sir, the trail might end here. This letter was written in lamp-black ink, which used to be imported from dredgers. We don't use it here anymore. I doubt you'll find who you're looking for in Riddlesburg." Aurelius set down the letter. Dredgers? Is that a town? The poet cleared her throat. Dredgers, town of yesteryear, town of stake and town of spears, forgotten well as it should be. Turn back if this is where your path leads. Could we just talk in the normal way, without rhyming? The poet was clearly upset by Aurelius's protestation. Did you not like that one? Here, let me try another. Riddle 3. An unkindness omen, quilled all in black. Unlike a writing desk, it'll never more call back. If you would like to read the rest of Riddlesburg, you can find it at aureliuswhitlock.gumroad.com. I think we have it listed there for $8, but if you're curious and that feels too steep, you can actually just put $0 into the place where it says name a fair price, and I promise I won't tell anyone. Nathan and I really made this just because we wanted to, and it makes us pleased as punch that anyone would be interested in reading it, so truly no worries if you just want to snag that PDF for free. Or you can join our podcast Patreon, where we've posted Riddlesburg and other riddly things for your puzzling pleasure, immediately accessible there. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined that Patreon so far. We are very excited to continue working on this podcast, and we have several exhibits in the works that we're excited to share with you all. Thank you for your patience with this next one, which we'll have ready in another week or so. But until then, thanks so much, and goodbye.